Hello, students to La Excellence. Welcome to the session on the weekly current affairs from 26th Feb to 4th March 2017. This is our first session of weekly current affairs where our focus is on covering the issues which are important in the last 1 week. And for student convenience, we will be dividing these issues according to the syllabus, especially the 4 syllabus. And within this 4 papers, we are going to talk about a particular issue belongs to which particular topic or the particular word which is there in the syllabus. So that the students, whenever they are making notes, they can segregate it in their books where they would have already written these issues on the basis of the syllabus itself. We do not believe in analyzing everyday newspaper completely. For the editorial section, which are very, very important, we have everyday editorial analysis. But the remaining paper is also important for us. So, most of the students, whenever they read every day, they miss out certain points. And there is some continuity over a period of time as well. Within a week, we get a comprehensive analysis of that particular issue. And once the particular issue has gained certain significance, based on that, we will be taking those issues and we will be giving in this magazine. And the second most important thing about this magazine is that we will be supplementing this magazine along with a video just to ensure that whatever you read in the magazine, you should be aware why you are reading and where exactly you have to use it. And we don't believe that every topic that we discuss, there can be a question made either in the form of prelims or mains. The reason for this is, just for the sake of doing questions, when we look at certain topics, we miss out certain examples and points which are very, very important for us to write in the exam. So, here our approach is, if there is any important question which we feel is relevant from the exam point of view, there we will give you the question over a week time. So, based on that, you can actually write the answers and submit it. The second important thing is, whenever we take the sessions, we try to tell you that this particular point is important from this particular paper. If questions come in this format, you can actually use these points. The intention of this is that whenever you are actually reading or whenever you take a magazine and read, you don't feel that certain points are important. But the person who has made the magazine has certain focus from the UPSC point of view to give that particular point. In a simple format, if I have to say, when we give summary to you, there is a tendency of you making summary out of it without knowing the relevance of the points which you have left. So in this video, our focus will be to tell you what are the points that you have missed and what exactly you should focus and where exactly you should focus. With this, it will be easy for you to understand how exactly we need to look at the Hindu newspaper. And it will help you to generate more points and write answers from the point of view of the examiner in UPSC and score more marks. For this, I hope the video will be beneficial for all of you. Meanwhile, if you need anything extra about any particular topic, please feel free to ask us. We will be ready to provide you those things. As we are starting from the end of Feb, if you people like these videos, and if you want us to make videos from September to Feb, please do let us know. on a monthly basis of the previous months. We'll make the videos and we'll present it to you. Along with these videos, if you people need to write answers and if you want to get it evaluated, please feel free to send it to us. Our ID is laexweekly@gmail.com. So you can actually upload here. We will be giving you our comments, how exactly you have performed, where you need to improve. Are you on the expected lines or not? Right? So guys, whatever requirement is there, please mail us rather than just commenting here, because when you mail us, we understand that yes, there is a need for this particular topic or for this particular video, and based on that, we will be interested to do more videos. Fine? So let's begin with the first topic of this week. If you see, the first topic is actually talk about the hysterectomy cases. Recently, from last 2 years, we usually observe that most of the issues with respect to female reproductive system is the hysterectomy cases. Recently in Karnataka and Maharashtra, there were news about large number of hysterectomy cases performed in unhygienic conditions, especially for the poor and illiterate women, which led to ill health. Even before this, in Odisha and other places, we have seen that there are deaths of women because of these cases. So, from Indian society point of view, that is social issues point of view, women issues, population and related issues, this question can come. So, UPSC will not ask you why it is in news, but it will ask you what are the reasons which are leading to hysterectomy cases. First one is the lack of awareness and proper medical facilities for the woman, which makes them vulnerable to these kinds of things and they go for these mass operations. And the second, one of the biggest criticism of bureaucracy in most of the issues is that they look at the target-based approach. That is, the bureaucracies will be given or the doctors will be given that in this district or in this area, you should actually go for these many hysterectomy operations. Because they want to reach this unrealistic targets, we see these issues increasing day by day. And the third important issue is with respect to poor and migrant women go for these operations mainly because during the menstrual period, they are not in a position to go and work. To get these additional days in their work, to get the additional money, they are forced to enter into these operations. And in most of the cases, the family planning mainly focuses on female rather than male. Unethical medical practices of few doctors also lead to these issues. So whenever you look at any problem, first see why this is prevalent. And then what you need to immediately see is what are the measures that we need to take to ensure that this can be removed. Any social problem, either the question will be on why the problem exists, or the second one, how do you solve this problem? These are the only two ways in which the questions can be usually expected. So let's look at exactly what they are focusing. So if we look, the Supreme Court in the Ramakant Rai case, it had actually given the directions to perform such sterilization camps, including qualification of doctors and informed consent, etc. But in most of the cases, the Supreme Court directive is not followed, which has led to all these issues. Remember, if there are any directives of the Supreme Court or constitutional provisions, those should be present in your answers. Then let's see what steps can be taken in this regard. The first point is providing health facilities, that is in the public health centers at the rural areas, along with the Anganwadis and Asha networks, these has to be provided rather than going for these kind of mass operations. And there should be strict legal action against the doctors who violate these norms. Awareness campaign is very, very important for us to ensure that these operations are not conducted, and at the same time, rather than going for hysterectomies, we should go for vasectomy cases. The reason for this is the side effects associated with vasectomies are very less when compared to the hysterectomies. Then you have something called as reshaping the policies, where this target based approach has to be removed, and the bureaucracy need to maintain a welfare approach by looking at the health of the woman as well. And then what is important for us is about the changing mindset, where we are talking about changing attitude of the people with the help of media, civil society, and even through gender sensitive programs. We should actually aim at removing this problem from the society. Here guys, what is more important for us, along with whatever is given, is that this question, any social issue question, can come in ethics paper as well. So here we have given this in Indian society because high possibility that a question can be asked in Indian society, but the same thing can be asked in ethics paper as well. They can make this as a case study, and they may ask you, what measures do you take being a district collector to ensure that these cases doesn't repeat? At that point of time, the same measures you can write, especially with respect to the ABC model of ethics attitude paper, right? So then let us see the next question from Indian geography point of view, especially from prelims point of view, where we have to look at the barren island issue, right? So in the barren island issue, barren island is the only active volcano in India. This is one question they may ask you, which is the only active volcano in India. And the second thing that they may ask is with respect to, it is in between which two plates. So it is in between Indo-Australian and the Burmese plate, right? So these 2 points and factors are important for us. Apart from these two, I would ask you or request you to look at Andaman and Nicobar in your atlas, where you have to look at what separates Andaman and Nicobar, what separates within Andaman and Nicobar. There are several islands. You have to look at each strait that is usually given. Sometimes match the following can be also asked about the tribals that are actually present in different islands of Andaman and Nicobar. So these points, please don't give up. Try to read them carefully once, right? So let's move to the next topic. The next topic is actually with respect to Indus Water Treaty. We know that post-Uri attack, most of the people were talking about stopping water of Indus to Pakistan. Many people also talked about cancelling the Indus Water Treaty. UPSC in 2016 mains has also asked questions about the Indus Water Treaty. But always remember, when any issue is in news for a significant period and analysis of that is there, high possibility that even though the question was asked in mains, the same thing can be repeated in prelims. So please read carefully about the Indus Water Treaty. Within this, now, why this issue is in news? Because of the review of Indus Water Treaty through arbitration of World Bank. And India accepted to attend the review meet. Till now, many were skeptic about India's process, especially Pakistan used to say that India do not want to change anything here even though it is facing lot of problems. And the second important thing is actually with respect to Pakistan's concerns over the Kishan Ganga and Ratel projects which are on discussion. Here, we need to understand from prelims point of view that Kishan Ganga project is on which river? It is on river Kishan Ganga, tributary of Jhelum. So this can be a factual information that may be asked in prelims, or they may ask you the Rattle project is on which river? That is on River Chenub, right? So apart from this, what can they ask you? They may ask about the run of the river project. UPSC has already asked a mains oriented question about what is the run of the river project. But in prelims, in any format, they may again ask you. So let us see what exactly is the run of the river project. So whenever you're looking at the river flow, right, like this. So let me take, there are mountains or there are some plateaus present here, and the river is flowing like this. Usually what we do, we construct a dam and the water gets accumulated, right? And we will have a gate which opens, and whenever the gate opens, the water flows. There will be a turbine present here and the water flows down. Whenever the turbine rotates, hydroelectricity is actually generated. But in the run of the river projects, the same thing exists, but it won't be storing any water. But here, the turbine will be usually present here, or partial storage of water can be there to ensure that there is no adverse impact. So due to this, what happens? There is no storage of water, and as the river flows, the turbine rotates and the electricity is usually generated. This is what we call run of the river projects, right? So if they ask you the difference between this, the major difference between normal hydroelectric projects and the run of the river projects is that in run of the river projects, the water is not stored. On most of the Indus waters, which actually belongs to Pakistan, India has constructed run of the river projects, and constructing run of the river projects is permitted under Indus Water Treaty, but Pakistan claims that this is actually leading to floods. So this issue is important for us. The second important thing we need to see with respect to Indus Water Treaty is about the three rivers which flows to Pakistan. They may ask you which of the following rivers belong to Pakistan and which of the following rivers belong to India. There you need to remember that the top three, that is Indus, Jhelum and Chenab, they actually belong to Pakistan, whereas Ravi, Beas and Satluj belongs to India. We say western rivers and eastern rivers. That is, if we make a division like this, the upper part, western, they actually belong to Pakistan and the lower half belongs to India. Fine. So after this, let's move quickly to our next topic. That is only from prelims point of view, Gahir Mata Marine National Park. The topic is important from the national parks point of view. We have added environment and ecology, especially from prelims point of view in the paper 1 itself. So it is in Odisha and is one of the world's largest nesting grounds for olive ridleys. So this is important, and one of the major concern is the protection of this endangered species. So now the question that can be expected in mains is the marine ecosystems in India are facing multiple threats. Discuss. This is important for us from the recent oil spill point of view as well. So think about it, make proper notes, and please try to send it at Laex Weekly at gmail.com, right? So let's move to next paper. So in paper 2, the first issue which was actually discussed in the editorial was about the money bill, right? So guys, Aadhaar, we have to make it compulsory if you need to get certain benefits from the government. So this was introduced in the parliament not as an ordinary bill, but it was released in the form of money bill. The reason for this is the opposition in the Rajya Sabha were not ready to accept the Aadhaar bill in its present format. So, we have given you some informations with respect to the money bill itself. So, what exactly is the money bill and how exactly it is passed? These are the basic concepts of polity. I'm not entering into explaining those basic concepts here, but as this issue is in news, I request you to look at the definition of money bill and what are the problems if we are introducing certain important bills in the form of money bill in the parliament. That is, we are actually escaping the legislative scrutiny of certain bills, especially by the Rajya Sabha. So, is it necessary for us to introduce in this format because the opposition is not letting the parliament to function? So all these are some of the issues that are being spoken about this, but from prelims point of view, this is more than enough. And if they ask you from mains point of view, these points are important. Basic subjects or basic concepts from geography, history, polity, economy, we expect and we believe that you would have already read. That is the reason we try to restrict by talking only about certain points. Else, you people may feel that we are going and talking about too much of basics, and you may feel that these points are not important. But if there are any students who actually require information about these basic facts as well, please feel free to contact us. So based on your requirement, we will give you other set of videos which may be helpful for you to understand these topics, right? So let's move quickly to the other topic, that is with respect to elections and related issues. Whenever there are elections happening in India, everything will be around elections. And the most important thing and the interesting thing is that lot of changes in the electoral reforms also occur during this period. So it is very important for us to look at these cases as well. So if we are looking at the election related issues, the first one is with respect to nota and the Indian voter. So when we are looking at the nota, none of the above option which was introduced through the Supreme Court directive in PUCL versus Union of India 2013 case, in the last 2 years, we have made certain observations. So let us see what these observations are. Number of votes to nota is just 2% or less in most of the cases, which means that there was a prediction when nota came up that there will be a lot of people who will be going and pressing nota. So this is over exaggerated, or the need for nota was not relevant. And the other issue was with respect to nota votes polled are high among reserved constituencies. It shows that the people have still prejudice against the political reservation for SCs and STs. And nota was recorded higher in left-wing extremism affected areas. And the fourth most important point is that nota figures are comparatively higher in those constituencies where a direct contest actually exists between two major political parties and there are no alternatives. So if UPSC actually asks you about the review of nota, they may ask you discuss that nota is not as effective. Then you have to talk about these factual information, right? So next, let's focus on electoral funding. We know that electoral funding is one of the major issues in electoral reforms of the country. One is with respect to the competitive electoral democracy, different political parties get different money. And based on its own influence, the amount that is used in the elections are too much. ADR actually says that 69% of total party funds are coming from undisclosed sources, and the proportion is much higher for regional parties compared to the national parties. Recently, we have seen the SP and the BSP cases as well. The transparency in political finance can be maintained by bringing political parties under RTI. But still, the political parties say that they are NGOs and they do not want to be part of this RTI. In Budget 2017, to ensure that more accountability of the political parties take place, the cash donation limit was reduced from rupees 20,000 to rupees 2,000. And they also proposed the electoral bonds. The videos on the budget actually helps you to understand what exactly are these. But you should be aware that even these two measures taken in the budget is beneficial for electoral reforms and also curb black money in the system. Then we need to look at the third important aspect, that is with respect to rights of tribals. This issue can be seen from internal security point of view, where the focus is on development linkages with extremism, or it may be seen in second paper issues related to development, or it may be used in anthropology as well. So we will try to link it with the optionals as well to help you understand these concepts better. So what exactly is this? Usually, there are certain bilateral investment treaties which the countries make with the foreign countries or the foreign companies. According to this, we usually say that come and invest in India. Whatever problem is there with respect to land acquisition, environmental clearances and all, that will be taken care by us. So if there is any delay or if the project gets cancelled because of any problem, so then there will be some liability clause where either the company has to pay to the government or the government has to pay to the company for its loss. So here, one of the major issue is that in the bilateral investment treaty, most of the investments actually occur in the tribal areas. And the tribal people are forcibly displaced. And in India today, because of the Land Acquisition Act and many other provisions, the lands of the tribal people are actually protected. So here, sometimes the companies are not convinced about the rights of the tribals and they question the government or file a case against the government about the problems which they face when they come and invest. Here the issue is with development and the tribal rights. So whenever the agitations and other things increases, the government is in trouble. So here what we need to look at is, one, what are the different protection and development of tribals in India? That is, what are the different measures which are there in the constitution and also through other statutory methods that we have enhanced to protect the tribal rights. So this is the first point. The first one is with respect to the 5th and the 6th schedules. And we also have Land Acquisition Act, Forest Rights Act, Panchayat extension to scheduled areas. And then the Samata versus Government of AP judgment, the Supreme Court actually told the transfer of tribal land to private parties for mining as null and void under the 5th schedule. And then even the UNDRIP, that is United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People, it recognizes that indigenous people have the right to self-determination. They have a right of autonomy and they also have a right of self-governance. And their right against forcible relocation and displacement from their lands without free, prior and informed consent is actually violated. That is, they say that if you are doing anything of this sort, it is internationally wrong as well. So is it important? Yes. Even if you are not writing about the domestic policies with respect to the BIT, domestic provisions with respect to BIT, it is very, very important for us to talk about the United Nations Convention. The reason for this is a domestic law is only for the domestic actors. But here we are actually talking about bilateral investment treaties with other countries and other country companies. At that point of time, we need to have a global law which is applicable for both the countries. So when we have this United Nations DRIP, which is actually protecting the rights of indigenous people, it will be very, very important for us to quote this to say that both the parties are liable for this. India being a member, it is very, very important for India to follow. So here, even if you violate a BIT, as United Nations recognize UN DRIP, at that point of time, you have an edge over them. So here, if you want to convince the parties, the opposite parties, that we are interested to protect the tribal areas, so let's exclude those areas in our treaties. Measures that we need to actually talk is, with respect to the BIT agreement should include provisions relating to protection of indigenous people. Here, New Zealand has such provision and it is an example for India. You can quote this. Strengthening domestic laws regarding protection of the rights of indigenous people, or if you can follow these, it is more than enough. If you can follow these rights or acts properly, it is more than enough. And the last point is, tribals should be given representation in the investment policy making. That is, if proper training is provided and if possible, try to convince the tribal about the investment policy the state is trying to undergo. Then the next important issue is with respect to India and Oman, where we are actually talking about a bilateral exercise. High possibility that this year a question can be with respect to different bilateral exercises, because even India yearbook mentions about these bilateral exercises. In the India yearbook videos, you will be noticing those points. So please try to make a separate note of all these bilateral exercises with respect to India and other countries. If multilaterally at anywhere, even if India is not present and some significant bilateral exercises take place, then they may ask about it. But as of now, focus on India a lot. Al Naga 2 is between India and Oman. It is with a focus on counter-terrorism. The aim of the exercise is to build and promote bilateral army to army. They may ask you, consider the following statements with respect to Al Naga, where they may say it is between Navy and Navy. When you say India and Oman, you may feel maybe we are talking about navies. It makes sense. So you may say, yes, it is between Navy and Navy. So please be careful about these type of issues. The navies of the two countries have been holding the bilateral maritime exercises in the name of Nasim al-Bahar. So there is a different name for the naval exercises, so don't get confused. Then India-Bangladesh relationship, whenever we are talking, it is actually with respect to building connectivity of the mainland with the Northeast India. So here, though the issue is important, we have just tried to give the facts that are important between India and Bangladesh. That is, if the Bangladesh Prime Minister is going to visit India, what are the expected agreements that will be signed? Usually, guys, you need to remember one simple point. UPSC will never ask you what is expected. Once the leader comes and they go back, only those issues will be asked. That is, if they have signed any agreements, only those will be focused rather than focusing on all the issues that are present. For example, when we talk about the Teesta water sharing agreement, they know that the relationship between the central government and the West Bengal is not proper, so they may not raise the issue at all. So these are some of the points which usually they avoid to talk. But before any prime minister or any president visits usually happens, there will be huge expectations in the media about what are all the things that will be considered. So for your easy understanding, we have tried to give you what are the problems with respect to this. But I would say, please try to avoid these type of readings. If they ask you, what are the relationship problems or issues between India and Bangladesh? You can use all these points. But remember, majorly the focus will be about what are actually done with the neighboring countries, that is India and the 8 neighbors including China. Whenever we are talking, we need to know what are the problems which are not resolved as well. But when it is with other countries, like India is going to Europe or Indian Prime Minister is going to visit a particular country, these are the 10 issues which needs to be solved. At that point of time, only 4 or 5 will be discussed. If you can write about those 4 or 5 points also, it is enough. Here, the takeaway is that try to focus once the issue has happened rather than focusing much before it. Then, Sri Lanka, one important issue which is there again and again, it will be there till October, is with respect to reconciliation that has actually or that has to happen in Sri Lanka after the LTTE war. That is, there are a lot of crimes that has actually happened in Sri Lanka over a period of time, and the Sri Lankan government has not yet taken any important measure to remove the wound from the minds of the people. So for this, one successful example where this wound was removed from the minds of the people was in South Africa. Post-apartheid era, we usually see that the reconciliation, truth and reconciliation committees, which actually worked, helped to remove the problems which were there between two societies. So, if at all about Sri Lanka anything is being asked, it would be with respect to the UNHRC resolution, but as it is the internal problem of Sri Lanka, India also believes that it has to be dealt within the Sri Lankan level, and if possible at the South Asian level, even though we have voted against Sri Lanka under different circumstances before. Now we have a government at the center which is working with full majority. So they actually look at the national interest of Sri Lanka and also in the national interest of India. So we need not look into this issue in detail much. Right? So next, some points which you may use in mains. One is with respect to the interview of the Justice R.M. Lodha, where he actually talked about the judicial appointments, because there is a lot of problem between judiciary and executive in the appointments. Judiciary says that executive is not listening. Executive says that the problem is not with us, but it is with the judiciary itself. He says that judiciary has made a strong institutional efforts to ring fence itself from the executive overreach. At the same time, transparency needs to be survived. Then about the lack of women in higher judiciary, they say that it is a phenomena across the world. It is majorly due to lack of women recruits in the early years in the judiciary that we see women has not reached the higher judiciary. As women today constitute 40% of judicial recruits, we feel or we think that it may increase over a period of time. BCCI Lodha committee report, any question can come about BCCI. They say that they have to discharge an important public function that the nation is obsessed with. So, if there is any question about the problems of judiciary, you can see traditionally 1 or 2 questions come about the judiciary at that point of time. Some interviews and some points like this in the introduction may be actually beneficial. Then we have given the question with respect to the money bill. Please write and send it to us. Then the next paper, we are actually focusing about the Indian solar power aim. That is, with recently in WTO, India actually lost a case with United States. The case was with respect to the nationality principle of WTO. According to WTO, the second pillar is actually the nationality. The first pillar of WTO is MFN. So what exactly is the second principle? The second principle says that if any product enters into a domestic market, that is, if US product enters into Indian market, and if any tender has to be called by the government should not discriminate between the local product that is available. They should not say that US product should not be used and only Indian product should be used. So this was one of the major issues. So what exactly do we mean by this? I'll just explain you. So the case was India wanted to produce 500 megawatts of energy from solar devices. In this, Indian government said that 250 megawatts can be produced from materials which are imported from any country. So it can be from US or it can be from any other country. And another 250 megawatts should be only from India. Right? So they are talking that 250 can be of any countries and another 250 should be only from India, because the Indian domestic companies which are manufacturing it, they are not competitive enough. Their prices are costly. So to make them competitive enough, we should give them some opportunity. But as I told you, the tender should not distinguish between the Indian product and the American product. So United States went to WTO and questioned about India's intention, and the WTO actually voted in favor of United States. Right? So that is one of the most important concept that we need to look. And when we are talking about solar, you should always look at intended nationally determined goals, that is INDCs, which India has committed with respect to eliminating the carbon, that is carbon emissions from coal or other power plants will be reduced. And if we have to achieve that, it has to be through these solar devices, right? So this is with respect to that, and the points which are here, the three statements may be used or asked by UPSC in a question, and they may do some factual errors in this. So please be careful. From prelims point of view, these 3 points are important. Then let us look at the terminologies which are actually there from WTO point of view. Domestic content requirement. It is a policy under which certain percentage of components for a particular program is procured from the local manufacturers. I told you already, this is one of the issue. And national treatment in WTO that prohibits discrimination between imported and domestically produced goods. Right? So this was violated. So there is a chance that they may ask you a question about it. Then universal basic income. It is there in news in economic survey. We have the video of economic survey where we have shown you some points as it was discussed in the newspaper as well. To remind you again that this may be asked in mains, please go through these points once again. Let's move quickly to the other point, that is with respect to the exotic species. That is Prosopis juliflora. Why this is important, sir? Should we remember this? I don't want you to remember any name of this. If you can remember this, Semi-Caruvellum trees. This native of this is from West Africa. This tree has the capacity to suck water wherever it is growing. It actually does not allow any plant to grow in its surroundings. So if this plant comes up, if there are any trees nearby, they die. If it comes in the fields, they suck all the water and the irrigation or the plants or the crops do not receive water at all. And the other problem is they are actually coming in the rivers, lakes and all, and they are sucking all the water. Wherever these plants are there, nearby that the water table and others will be sucked completely. This is one of the major problem. It came to India when we had demand of this fuel wood and all. And the Madras bench has actually told that please remove this completely. As this was in news, we felt there may be a question in prelims because nowadays all these kind of factual information and trees are usually asked. So please look at it carefully once. Then the other important point is with respect to police reforms. Guys, every time, whenever the meet of police happens, there will be discussion in the newspaper about the required police reforms. There are already enough committees that are set up. Even Supreme Court has directed what needs to be done. And the Supreme Court recently told that I have told enough and there is no one to listen about it. The states are not doing anything and I cannot do much. So what is expected is everyone is believing that the central government should come up with the model police reforms which the states has to adopt. The reason for this is we know if 2 or 3 states request the central government to form a model law, and on the basis of this, or if the Rajya Sabha takes the initiative and passes anything which is actually good for the welfare of the states, those needs to be taken up. So here the police reforms is one. Whenever the police reforms question comes, we have to talk about the 7 points directive that was given during the Prakash Singh versus Union of India. So what is it? One is with respect to the State Security Commission needs to be constituted, which actually looks at the welfare of these police forces. If there is any problem, the commission has to inform and rectify it. Then the state government is to ensure that the DGP is appointed through merit base, and we know that the political appointment of DGP usually takes place, and it has to be transparent with a minimum tenure of 2 years. Then they say that even the state government has to ensure that the police officers on operational duties should have a minimum tenure. Improper shifting of the police officers, this is one way of the politicians actually influencing on the work of the police. Then they talk about the police establishment board should be set up, which actually looks at all the transfers, postings and promotions. Then they also talk about the state government to set up National Security Commission at the union level to prepare a panel for selection and placement of chiefs of the central police organizations who should also have a minimum tenure of 2 years. Then they say the state government should set up the police complaints authority, and all these complaints needs to be actually taken on time and they have to be cleared on time. There are some complaints against the police officers who have been involved in custodial deaths, grievous hurt, or even rape in the police custody. And they say that the most important one, almost all these recommendations focus, is about the state government is to separate the investigation and the law and order functions of the police. Remember, police has two functions. One is investigation, another one is law and order. These two wings needs to be separated. Remember guys, whenever police reforms question comes, these 7 points if you can write, you can score maximum points. Then we need to look at the ISIS challenge through the social networking sites, which is very, very important for us, where through Facebook, Twitter and other accounts, these people are actually recruiting, they are asking for funds, and they are also using it for spreading their propaganda material, right? So this can be a question, please be prepared about it. And we have given a question on universal basic income, please try to write and send it to us. And the last one, we have taken certain issues and the news which is there, and on the basis of these news we have tried to make some ethics based case studies. One is with respect to national anthem, which is questioned, and the second one, there are such demonstrations made by IAS officers, so what is the impact of this? And the third, based on a case in Telangana, we have made a case study. Please try to answer them. In the next video, weekly video, I will be discussing about what exactly we were actually looking at these. First 2 to 3 times, we will try to give you these questions. You try to write and show. Then we will tell you how exactly your approach should be on the basis of the student's performance, right? And then one essay we have given. Every week we will be giving you one essay. So on the basis of the issues that are present, feel free to write about these and send it to us. Right, guys? Last, I would like to say again, please go through these topics on a weekly basis. If you are not able to read regularly, if you have already read, just see where you can use these points. And at last, the hard copy of this is available in stores. In some places, it may reach late. Meanwhile, if you need this magazine, please mail us at Laex laexweekly@gmail.com. Remember, we are not posting it on the comments section. If you request only through this, then only we will be providing. No, sir, it's fine. I can make notes by looking at the video itself. Absolutely up to you. Fine, guys. I hope the session was useful. Please give your valuable feedback and comments if you need any improvements as well, because the only way of communication for you through the videos is voice and whatever we write. Then there is a possibility that sometimes you may not understand certain slang. So, to ensure that we reach to the diversity of the country, we take time, spell properly so that it reaches to everyone. So, it may look slow, but the intention is to ensure that it reaches every audience in a proper way rather than being fast and people not understanding what exactly I spoke. And the second important point is that whenever you listen to any lecture, what is most important is you will be making points. Rather than pausing and wasting time, when the video is explained at the same time as the pace is slow, you can write and finish it off. Fine. So if you require from September till Feb, please let us know. We will be happy to provide it for you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep watching and please do subscribe. Thank you.